night custodian who does security checks was that fire put out. Do you recall that 10 years ago someone broke into Lumber World and they burnt that building down at a great cost to our community and to Lumber World? Do you know for a fact that they had a security camera system that didn't stop anything? Do you know also for a fact that afterwards they decided maybe it would be a good idea to invest in a security firm to police their building after hours? That's the kind of stuff we would like to happen before we have an incident. Please remember, if you turn down this application, you will not be stopping their business, only limiting the scope of its impact. Fewer lockers being allowed on that parking lot mean fewer opportunities for noise interruption or security problems, and maybe a slightly calmer and more peaceful neighborhood. So I ask you, as part of my petition that went in today with the 20 names, to deny this application, or at least put it on hold with the hopes that the Mills will reconsider and take some more proactive steps to solve potential problems and provide us with a deeper sense of security. Thank you.
Thank you. I wonder if I could ask one of our staff, does that light get on the counter? I'm not sure if they can see it.
I think it does, you just may not see it.
Can they see it though?
The speakers can't see it.
Should we prepare this out?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So nice to see it.
We didn't have to tell them that, now they know we can't see it. Maybe put it back down.
Well, that's what it was last council meeting. Okay, so you could see.
Thank you, Stan. Anyone else wish to speak to council?
I prefer to stand if you don't mind, and I don't need a microphone. Mayor Atwell, members of council, you should have a copy of my presentation before you, which includes some photographs. My name is Brian Sylvester, and my home is at 1030 Holford Street. My wife, Kathleen Cass, and I wish to indicate our support for this revised development permit amendment. And this is what I'm speaking to. I'm dealing with the specifics of the amendment, not issues outside of the requested amendments. We believe that GMC Projects has made revisions to the original application and made a commitment to implement further changes in an attempt to recognize the wishes of the adjacent residents. Our home is within 50 meters of the southwest lot line, and our priorities are the construction of an opaque fence to a height of not less than 1.75 meters, or not more than 3 meters, which is provided for in the 2003 bylaw. Also, the landscaping of an area of not less than 2.6 meters in depth adjacent to the lot line. Now, the current bylaw provides for 3.75, but the amendment, which we would agree to, because of the historical situation there, of 2.6 meters. We do not wish to engage in any discussion with respect to the total number of parking spaces. I have no expertise in determining whether the number is appropriate or not. But I would point this out, that zoning bylaw 2003, section 6.5F states, where any required landscape area abuts an area devoted to the circulation of parking of vehicles, it shall be edged with a non-mountable reinforced concrete curb or concrete curb and gutter that shall be continuous except for driveways and walkways and for drainage to engineered on-site stormwater detention and treatment facilities. If you look in your package, you'll see an example of lined parking spaces with no evidence of those curbs. As recently as Sunday, 6th of March, no concrete curbs were in place along the areas of the landscape in the vicinity of parking stalls 3 to 22. Secondly, and again you have a photograph in your package, it is evident from the attached photograph that Slate Lumber flat deck truck has been backed into a parking stall, and the tailgate is within 25 meters of the chain link fence and completely overhangs the landscaped area. The landscape is stretching it a little bit. It's a wasteland at the moment. The purpose of the setback and the landscaping is to provide a buffer between the activities of the M1 zone property and the adjacent RT1 and RS6 properties. It is failing in that at the moment. There are other issues which I noted are contained in something which I read online today with respect to irrigation and bonds being posted to ensure that the landscaping is carried out correctly. I would support all of those conditions which are placed on by the staff and the bylaws. Thank you for the opportunity to make this presentation.
Thank you very much. Anyone else?
My name is Dwayne Juniper. I live at 1051 Halford Street. I live exactly opposite the gate that has been discussed. Although they have put in do not enter signs, speed bumps, because I live right there, I see every day people ignoring them. I see people driving up, staring at a do not enter sign. SLEG does not come out and say anything to their clients. They're more concerned getting their clients loaded up and on their way. They don't want to create risks with any of their clients. So I feel, even if they've gone to the extent of putting these signs up, there's nobody there to be the security guard, so to speak. So I feel they're still driving out, they're still using Halford Street. They have a Quadra Street access. I do not understand why Halford is still continually being used as an exit zone. It's still providing an unsafe road for our children. They completely ignore any types of signage, obviously, that they've put up. And I don't know who can police that. Do I need to make phone calls every day? Do I need to video camera this? It's a question that I ask, and they seem to think that it's going to go away. They're going to put a sliding gate. It's going to be the same issue. It's just making more of a main street coming out onto our road. They have a commercial access. Their address is Quadra Street, not Halford Street. I do not understand why we have to be the brunt of their business.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to council?
Good evening. Thank you for listening to the neighborhood. My name is Roger Harmson. I live at 1030 Halford Street. We're directly adjacent, as you've heard. I'm the president of the Strata Council, but I'm not here to speak for the Strata Council. I'm here to speak for myself. One thing the position of being president of the Strata Council does afford me, though, is the opportunity to hear what other people are saying. People come to me because I am president of the Strata Council. And I was the one that organized the petition. It was presented to you back in November, council meeting. I've also been part of the group of people who tried to put together the Good Neighborhood Protocol. I'd very much like to thank John Schmuck and Art Beck for their assistance in dealing with us and dealing with the mills. I'd like to share some of the observations after having lived in the neighborhood for over 35 years. I've never seen a community so charged up and so irate as they are right now. Neither the bottling depot, Phillips Brewery, not even the Salvation Army drop-off has created the kind of anger that you have within the community. Most of the people are not opposed to the usage change to self-storage. But the persistent and flagrant disregard for not only the bylaws of the municipality, but also the display of contempt for the neighbors is what makes us irate. To approve the reduction in the parking spaces and the offsets from the property lines, put those changes into perpetuity. When the property changes hands, as it probably will, we'll be faced with those closer proximities to the adjacent neighborhood. There's no need to approve the amendments. They're already open as a storage business. This only increases their profitability at the expense of the neighborhood. 3 years ago, during discussions with Jordan Milne, he said he would participate in hedges, fencing, landscaping that adjacent to 1030 Halford. There was no response from him. Nothing was done. A year and a half ago, we spent over $1,000 and a lot of labor to purchase and plant a laurel hedge on our side of the fence. This was after Jordan had said that the fence was legally non-conforming and they didn't have and wouldn't do anything. When asking Saanich Planning to give us evidence of the non-conformance, they can't find it. They wouldn't provide it. Now Jordan says they'll do something, they'll do the fence if we support their amendments. That's pretty intimidating to me. Every article about self-storage, traffic, hours, they're all about other areas. It means nothing to us. Every nice article and statistic about self-storage, and even the equally horrific stories on the other side, mean nothing. This is our neighborhood. It's what affects us and how the proponents have affected us in the past and currently. In a recent email to a very wide distribution list, Mr. Jordan Milne said, "We hope you will consider the facts and not heresy when you make deliberations about the proposed application. It carries significant benefits for the neighborhood and Saanich, which many have recognized. I beg to differ. The application for reduced parking, shorter offsets carry no benefits to the neighborhood." I'd also like to say thank you to John Schmuck, as I said before, and Art. They've been very, very helpful. And so have Doug Roberts and Graham Barber of the bylaw enforcement. I urge Saanich to deny the offsets and to the parking changes because it does nothing to the neighborhood. All it does is feed the mills. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else? Second time, is there anyone else? Thank you very much. The applicant, you just squeaked in.
Thank you. I'll be quick too. Monica and I live at 1030 Halford Street as well, and I ride my bike to work every day, to and from work. And in January, I had to go to work at 7 in the morning. So it's very dark at that time. So here I am going down Halford, and on several occasions, trucks were coming out of the entrance gate. They gun it, and they're coming down the road. And I was just terrified because I thought, can they even see me? I mean, I do wear brights and I'm flashing all over the place. But when someone just guns it, I'm imagining they think there's nobody on the road because it is that early in the morning. I was very, very frightened. And I just thought this, like I don't have a camera, my cell phone is not available. I don't think I should be carrying that out just to take pictures of what could possibly happen. And my point right now is just, to me, this is not how a neighborhood should operate. I shouldn't have to be scared of going down one block. That's all it is, down Quadra Street. And I think the Milnes need to be responsible for the traffic on that road. My understanding is that Halford is a residential road, and so they need to be, I think, more observant of that aspect of it. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Start again. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to council? Thank you very much. Would the applicant like to come forward?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, members of council. As you've heard, there's still dispute about some issues that pertain about the property. I think the vast majority of those issues do not pertain to the application before you. There was a concern an item that was raised by Michael Goodwin, which I should have mentioned, the sliding gate. And Dwayne, the gentleman who lives directly across from that gate, he and I have been in contact about that gate, whether it should be motorized, not motorized. His concern about vehicles ignoring the signage, I mean, unfortunately, people are going to do what people are going to do. If they're not going to abide by the rules, we're really limited into what we can do there. But one further measure that we are taking as a part of this application, which will eliminate that, is the sliding gate. We've committed to putting in a motorized sliding gate that will only open when a vehicle pulls up to it from the inside. So that means that should a vehicle pull up to it from the outside, they're just going to sit there. I mean, there's no ability for them to get onto the property unless they've already accessed the property via Quadra Street. John Schmuck's mission statement with respect to the Good Neighbor Protocol, we fully agree with. We are here to act in good faith. We are here to be good neighbors. We are here to minimize the amount of noise, regardless of what time that might take place. But what we rely on is we rely on experts. We rely on our architect to come up with architectural drawings. We rely on the experts in their fields to determine what we do. And we've hired Canada's largest and best self-storage facility operator to manage this facility for us, which is Access Storage and their BC Armor Storage for Your Life. We're not going to try and pretend as though we know better than they do. That's why we've hired them. I understand the concerns about access hours, but we are in very passive use. I provided statistics to council in an email that I sent along, which I hope some of, or if not all of you, have had an opportunity to read. The number of storage lockers being proposed in this outdoor area is 65. The number of customers on average with 24-hour access is 1 to 2%. So using the larger scale of that, we would have at most 2 people within that 65 unit area that would have 24-hour access. Of the people that have 24-hour access, according to the statistics provided by Access Storage and Storage for Your Life, they rarely come to site. This is somebody who wants the assurance that should there be an emergency that they need their items, that they have the ability to get there. The practical idea of somebody actually coming in at 3 o'clock in the morning to get something, very, very limited. But if that does occur, if we have a problem tenant, if we have somebody who's abusing the privilege that they are providing, whether they have 24-hour access, whether they have regular access, we have the ability to address it right away. We have the ability to change their hours of access immediately. We have the ability to evict the tenant. We have the ability to react. Now, I understand people would like us to be proactive, but I don't know what I can do to be proactive in that circumstance. We can only address a concern as it arises. The security on this building is top-notch. You can't get into this property after hours if you're not a customer. And when you access the property, we're going to know who accessed the property from the code that you use to access, and when you access, when you exit. We have every area of this property, both interior and exterior, on security camera. We're going to know who came in, we're going to know what they did, we're going to know everything. Some of the challenges that have been raised are challenges we can't address. Mr. Ross, Lenny Ross, raised an issue of their geographic location being uphill from this property. I would guess, conservatively, that they're probably 80 to 100 meters away. And beside us, in between our properties and them, is another M1 zone industrial property. The Kegs parking is there, the Phoenix parking, as he mentioned, is there. We cannot control what happens with other tenants, other property owners, other businesses. We can now, through this process, through the security measures that we're implementing, know that if an issue does arise at nighttime, if an issue does arise, we can see if anybody was on site. We can see who that person was, and we can be able to delineate. You know what? We know 100% that was definitely there was no opportunity for somebody on our side to create that problem. And if that is the case, if they are creating a problem, we'll respond immediately. The community is our customer. The community is our base for business. We are here to serve. We're not here to be bad neighbors. We have continued to engage and will continue to engage. It's a promise we've made. The unfortunate part about the good neighbor protocol that we couldn't agree to is the hours of operations, because we rely on the experts to tell us when that business needs to be open and customers need to have access. That's their forte. But we can change, should issues arise. So I would ask for your approval of this amendment. We are really talking about a parking variance. There are 3 things that are being adjusted under these amendments. There is a side yard variance that is an existing condition that was approved under the original development permit. There is a turning radius that is an existing condition that has been there since the original building was built. We're asking for a parking variance. Self-storage is an extremely low use by way of parking. You do not have that many customers. For every 100 lockers, you have 1 to 2 customers per day. We're going to have 500 lockers, which means at any point in an entire day, we'll have 10 people throughout an entire day as our portion of the facility. We do not need the level of parking that requires under the zoning, which is why we've come forward with the variance request. I can assure you that the variance request is being asked based on the new gross floor area, not the previous gross floor area. We have added a second floor, as was noted, and is being revised based on that, because that's what exists. If you consider other self-storage facilities which you may have frequented, may have used, I would use, for example, the U-Lock and U-Royal, if you've driven down the Old Island Highway. They have 3 parking stalls for that facility, one of which is a handicap stall. It is over 100,000 square foot self-storage facility. They have some loading zones, as we do, loading areas for our customers. But we are talking about a significantly larger volume. The area that we're contemplating for the exterior storage is not utilized at this moment beyond commercial vehicles. And there are commercial vehicles that we park there in order to provide an area for them to go. They don't need to be there. The utilization of this area could be a much more intensive use. It could be a lumber yard. It could be a number of different things. And we wouldn't need to come before council, and we wouldn't need to do anything in order to move forward with that. But we want to move forward. This is a critical part of our business. And this is a critical part of our business, and although many don't understand that, it is for us an additional amenity for the customers we're trying to serve.
Thank you. I just asked you 2 questions that came up. And how important is the Holford Street exit? Is it a requirement or a want?
The Holford Street exit is the only access point from the property. This is another misunderstanding. Holford is half fronted by a commercial property, half fronted by a residential property. There's this notion that we're somehow impacting.
You are going to answer my question, though, aren't you?
Yes, we need the access for Sleggs. Sleggs has the right to utilize that access and that egress. If we were to lose the right, which the only way in which we can do that is to covenant that on title, 1, I don't have the ability to agree to that. I would then have to go and get my mortgage lender to agree to now not having the only direct access to the property. Saanich has a sanitary right-of-way under this building and through this property that crosses our access point from the shared easement agreement. If Saanich ever needed to do repairs to that sanitary system, we would lose access entirely to our property should we close off Holford Street. If the Keg property ever needed to do works on its property that prevented us from crossing that shared access agreement, we would have no access to the property. For a self-storage business, we don't need the Holford Gate, and that's not something that we're going to utilize. But unfortunately, another tenant within the building has the right to it and needs the access to it. It's not a part of this application. The vehicles that are entering and exiting will be entering and exiting as a part of Quadra Street.
Thank you. Second question, 24-hour access. A number of complexes in the city are not open 24 hours. How important is that to you?
It's an item that is handled by our facility manager, and as I mentioned, they are the industry-leading experts in Canada. We rely on them to provide us with their background. The likelihood of somebody getting it is 1 to 2% of our customers in total. And so for us, we rely on them to tell us, and as they tell us, it's an important advertising tool. It's really not something that's actually very heavily requested and utilized.
Thank you. Council, any questions? Okay. Councilor Ronan.
Thank you, the applicant. You mentioned that you'll have security cameras. Will you have security on site as well, especially after hours?
No, there is no on-site security after hours. There's no access to the property unless you have a code access. There's security cameras, and then there is
Who
security.
monitors the security cameras?
There's a DVR recording system that monitors keeps 3 months worth of storage of the security, so we will be
So
able
if
to.
something happened on your site in the middle of the night,
Yeah.
fire, how would you know?
Well, a fire
Except
alarm
if
would.
we called you with a fire alarm.
Well, the fire alarm would be called. The Price's Alarm does our fire alarm monitoring, also our security monitoring. So if somebody broke into the building, for example, our alarm goes off just as though it would be for your own home. The first person they call is Themis Security. Themis Security does drive-by patrol checks of the surrounding of the property. They don't stand on site all evening, but Themis Security does drive-by patrol checks. That was actually something that was implemented in the fall where we were having problems with homeless that were gathering on the Holford Street side of the property and some other nefarious activities. And so we had Themis engaged in order to do those.
Thank you.
Mr. Milne, with your video recording, which takes a visual record, I imagine, does it also take any volume recording so that you would have the ability to identify any noise or issues with the vehicle?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Could you install that if you had the option? My point here being that, of course, you have the time log and you have the individual ID of the customers, such that if there was a complaint from any of the neighbours that there was a noise issue, you could identify whether your clients were there at the time by their number and by visual, but you wouldn't have necessarily an indication of noise. It would seem to me, particularly for your outside unit, given the technologies that are available, that adding the ability to record noise might be something to look at. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I have no opposition to that. I know that our infrastructure for the interior facility and the exterior loading points for the interior facility are all installed, so I don't know if that's a separate device that can be added to it or whether that's built within the camera system. But as a part of the exterior storage units, we have not installed obviously that equipment because the exterior storage units are not there yet. But it's certainly something that we can look into installing if that technology is available.
I'm sure that there's the ability to record noise.
Yeah.
With the Sleggs lumber lease, once that lease ends, we don't know when that's going to be, you've made some suggestions, it may be within 16 months or it could be longer. I think on 16 months they have an option to renew.
So the Slegg lease, they have the option to terminate it in September of 2017, which would then mean that they vacate at the end of February of 2018. Should they not execute their option to terminate the lease, Slegg's lease carries on until, don't hold me to this, but I believe 2021, 2020, 2021, something in that range. I provided that to neighbors and 2021. Okay. Thanks.
So within the activities of Sleggs, a couple of things have come up. One is the suggestion you received from you, Vic, on the beeper sound when vehicles back up, and you're looking into that. But another suggestion that's come up is whether Sleggs could identify the opportunity to use electrical powered forklifts, and that would reduce the noise of forklift activity. Would you update us on that, please?
Certainly. So Sleggs is committed and actually ordered the UVIC technology to go into their 2 existing forklifts on site to reduce the noise of their existing forklifts. So that's something that I found out today and shared with a neighbor and confirmed with her this evening that that's being done. Sleggs is also committed to doing a fleet review of their forklift requirements this spring and committed that based on the first need for replacement forklifts, that they will be buying electric forklifts for 3934 Quadra and shifting out, should the forklifts for Quadra still be functioning, to another location in order to minimize this.
So if I may continue then, what's the timeline on the arrival of electrical forklifts? Do you have that information?
I have not been provided with the timeline, just that the priorities is when the first forklift goes, this will be the location that gets an electric forklift.
And although it is your tenant, so maybe you don't have exact information. Do you have a sense of how much traffic is going through the Slags yard and what time of day? One of the persistent things we're hearing is the concern on Holford of traffic volume, traffic disruption.
I don't have a traffic count or anything available by way of what their vehicle volume is. In fact, I would be more comfortable in deferring that to somebody who lives on Halford Street. But you know, unfortunately, that's something that I'm not in control of. You know, some days they may be busier than others. Some seasons they may be busier than others. I think that really depends on where things are at with their business and the economy of the housing market in Victoria.
So what I was leading to with this question is, if the traffic is going in and out on Holford into the gate there, and then you put the one-way gate, which will be sliding, egress only from the inside going out, I just wondered if you had any information about what kind of relief there might be for the people on Holford from any reduction of traffic, because it would not be coming in from the Holford side.
Yeah, I don't know what the reduction would be. I do know that it would certainly eliminate the backing up of vehicles, which was something raised on the November 15th hearing. The vehicles were essentially backed up down Halford Street, waiting to essentially drive in and load their goods. And as you can imagine, one guy pulls in, the next guy backs up and waits for him. And so I don't know what the numbers are, but I can imagine that there will be a significant reduction in the amount of vehicles coming up Halford.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.